Well, in that new creation isn't just a one-time thing. You know, we are constantly becoming new creations.
Welcome to Laughing.Mystics, an unorthodox journey through the liturgical year with Laura Lewis Barr and Marci Madary. Hey, Marci.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, we're at the fourth Sunday of Lent.
Wow. Lent is just moving right along.
Yeah.
How's it going for you?
You know, I do feel that our discussions of these readings are making an impression on my soul.
I would agree. Do you want to say more about it, that?
Like I said a couple weeks ago, I think I'm only conscious of part of it. Like, it feels very much like we are in such deep water that, and when we come together, a lot of times I've read the readings and I've thought about them, but I don't have any idea what to say. And it's been pretty magical as we circumambulate, one of my favorite words, the Jungian word, circumambulate around these readings, that I find medicine, I find manna, I find gold, or whatever metaphor we want to have, and I love hearing your wisdom.
Well, I can say that our conversations have really deepened this experience for me too. You know, since we talked, I've really been sitting with, what is it that I need to repent from? How do I turn my heart, right? That's repentance, turning of the heart, reorient myself towards divine goodness. And so, right, as we speak, it becomes alive in a new way. I'm hoping maybe the listeners, this is adding to their Lenten experience too.
Absolutely.
So, okay, fourth Sunday of Lent. You want to start us off?
Yeah, reading 1 is from Joshua 5. The Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have removed the reproach of Egypt from you." While the Israelites were encamped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, they celebrated the Passover on the evening of the 14th of the month. On the day after the Passover, they ate of the produce of the land in the form of unleavened cakes and parched grain. On that same day after the Passover, on which they ate of the produce of the land, the manna ceased. No longer was there manna for the Israelites, who that year ate of the yield of the land of Canaan.
So I had some fun reading about this reading. And just before this reading, the Israelites had a mass circumcision.
A mass.
Circumcision.
They all got circumcised.
They all got circumcised.
Oh, ouch.
Right. But that says somewhere along in the desert, they stopped doing it. And so that very sacred private part of a man is given to God. And that the man is left in a more vulnerable place.
Okay.
So circumcision is essential for the covenant.
Okay.
And it was interesting, in my own life, I asked my my late husband when our son was born, well, will we get him circumcised? And he's like, yes, it is a part of the covenant. Now, we're Christians, we're not Jewish.
Yes.
But that was very important for him to stay in that line, to stay in that lineage of circumcision for the men. Back to the reading.
Yeah.
They had fallen out of this very important practice in the desert. And so there was mass circumcision. And Now, Joshua says, today I have removed the reproach of Egypt from you. Like, you are in good space. You are clean now. So that's why, right? They're back in right relationship with God.
But the main point of the reading seems to be about the food.
Mm-hmm.
And the manna is no longer needed.
Mm-hmm.
This miraculous food that God was providing and now the land is providing. Is that part of what we're talking about?
Right. They're no longer fasting in that desert where they can only eat the manna and the quail. And they're now in that land flowing with milk and honey.
So the manna wasn't really great. It was sort of like I get to eat saltines and that's it.
Right. Right. Yes. And there's a lot of conversation about what the manna was exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it was the excrement or the outer shell of these insects that lived in trees.
Oh, wow.
Right. There's a lot of conversation. No one really knows what manna is. At least I haven't heard that.
Okay.
But no, it's not tasty, and it's the same thing day after day.
Sure.
You know, right? It's like going from oatmeal in the morning to, pancakes and eggs and bacon.
Okay.
But Jewish people wouldn't eat bacon.
Yeah.
But you get the point.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a transition from, like you said, the wandering exile and the fasting. You called it fasting, which I hadn't thought of that. What interests me, that I find very interesting, is that it's like that dependence on that miracle from God ends. Like God isn't sending the manna anymore.
Right, which can pull us into a dangerous situation when we stop depending upon God,
Yeah,
right?
right,
And it's we have abundance.
right.
I think last week you talked about that cycle, right? Of becoming humble and being humbled and then going back up that hill, right? And so that's kind of where the Israelites are, that they're getting abundance and blessing and goodness. But once they hit that blessing, then they become arrogant. And then they create their own suffering.
Right.
I also, it never really occurred to me, but while the time they were in the desert, they never celebrated the Passover. They didn't have the food to celebrate the Passover.
Oh,
So now they are. It's a big deal that they're able to do that, to live fully and celebrate fully. They moved from surviving into thriving.
right.
So has there been a time in your life when you've moved from that surviving into thriving, of, getting by, just eking it out, and then all of a sudden there's plenty?
Well, I have felt in exile a lot in my life. I can relate very much to what you're saying. I remember moving to California when I was 26, and I moved to an area where I didn't know anyone. And I have a memory of sitting in a little room that I was renting. I was just renting a single room of a house. And it was winter time and I had a little electric heater and I was feeling a mixture of very lonely and forlorn. But there was a part of me that was really the mystic part of me that was really feeling connected to God in that desert experience
Right.
of being alone. And I think it is a mystery how that time when I was being fed the manna of really feeling close to God in within my pain, that it was a very holy time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the abundance comes, and I do forget God, and I do
Mm-hmm.
forget that connection. And that makes this reading very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Well, I'm going back to the major arc of my life
Yeah.
of, after my first husband's death. And it was probably 2.5 years till I started to actually feel true joy and happiness and a lightness. And I was talking to my spiritual director, and I said, I don't know if this is good or not, right? I don't know if it's okay that I'm happy,
Yeah.
because somehow or another that sadness, that grief connected me to my first husband.
Yeah.
And she said, because she's brilliant, she said, it's okay, Marci. You can be happy and still be connected,
Yeah.
right? So these Israelites can be happy and celebrate. Now, their choice, the trick of it, and we know they don't always do a good job, is to stay connected.
Right. And it reminds me of the cycles of our lives and freely accepting those changes.
Mm,
So there's abundance, there's no abundance, there's affliction, and then there's redemption. And
mm-hmm,
that kind of willingness, ability to trust in these different
mm-hmm.
cycles as I age, that is what I feel like I'm trying to learn. And that's what this reading seems about to me, like no more manna, now they get to eat the grain.
Mm-hmm. The milk and the honey.
Yeah,
Hooray.
yeah,
It's a sweet reading.
it is.
Interesting that it's in Lent.
Say more.
I mean, I think of Lent as, the parched and dry desert, not this time of milk and honey and being in the land of goodness.
It's refreshing, that's for sure. I have removed the reproach. Let's see what Paul does now. Paul.
Well, and the fourth Sunday of Lent, it is a lightening, a
Ah,
lightening.
to get a moment's breath before we go
Yes.
into the dark, dark part.
All right. So this is the second letter to the Corinthians from Paul. So again, Corinthians, in Corinth, the people struggle getting along. Sisters and brothers, whoever is in Christ is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, new things have come. And all this is from God, who has reconciled us to himself through Christ, and given us the ministry of reconciliation. Namely, God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. So we are ambassadors for Christ, as if God were appealing through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. For our sake, he made him to be sin who did not know sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God in him. So those connections with the first reading about being a new creation, a new people, about reconciliation,
Yeah.
about coming together, uh, you know. So it's a nice echo of that first reading.
Yes. I love the first line, whoever is in
Mm-hmm.
Christ is a new creation. That is
Mm-hmm.
psychologically true. I think when I can find that connection to the God in me, I become new. Literally new. I mean, my body well, my body might change too, but I was thinking the other day, I've spent a lot of my life being angry and impatient.
Hmm.
I have a driving personality and get out of my way. And
Mm.
I have a sewing machine that I took sewing as a kid,
Bless your heart.
and I just do repairs. And I watched myself the other day where the bobbin got empty, and then I tried to replace the bobbin, it wasn't working. And then finally, after 15 minutes, got the bobbin done. And then I put the thread back through the needle, and then it jammed. And I'll spend an hour and 15 minutes will be the sewing, and the rest will be
Mm-hmm.
the repairing of the machine. And I have changed. Like, I
Mm.
am not ranting at the machine and swearing and throwing things. I watched myself go, wow, I am a new creation. Something has changed in me, and this willingness, this ability to be patient. And not always, not in everything, but I have really changed in my life, and that was a microcosm to see how it's comical how much goes wrong with that machine, and how long it takes me to repair a pair of pants, but I do it with joy.
How does that feel?
It's pretty incredible. It's surreal. And back to last week in Edinger, I think it comes only through suffering for me.
Mm.
And they say for most everyone I've read
Mm-hmm.
that suffering is what refines me, that burns away. I'm changing my metaphors, but that burns away this part of me that wants to be God.
And to say that that doesn't work for everyone because it's choice. What do I choose to do with the suffering in my life?
Mm.
Do I let it burn away that part that I might be more at peace, a more loving, compassionate person, or do I hold on to the suffering and become bitter and angry?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are plenty of people who do that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it starts with self-honesty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been encountering a person lately in my life who doesn't seem willing to be honest about what's really happening. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I talked about pride being fundamental, but I think the salvation has to start with self-honesty about how messed up I am.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's no way. And that's the shadow work everybody in the Jungian community talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's, that first step in the 12 steps, is admitting,
Mm.
seeing ourselves honestly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I think it's the first step in any spiritual path, in any spiritual growth.
And so, to bring it back to the reading,
Oh.
then, it's maybe the first step to be reconciled is to
Mm-hmm.
really be honest about
Mm-hmm.
the places in me that are full of rage, that are full of impatience, that are full of judgment, or any of the shadowy qualities that are painful, but I need to admit.
Mm-hmm. Right. So before we can reconcile with other people, we have to reconcile within ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we can also reconcile with God.
Yeah.
But it's tough to do if we don't do our own work first.
Oh, yeah. I think it's impossible.
Okay. Yes. I was being nice. That Jesus chose to die, chose to let himself be killed, one without sin, for us.
What I'm reminded as you're talking is just suffering in general and accepting my own.
Mm.
And I'm not without sin, but I can feel like, hey, why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I did grow up being taught that I could offer up my suffering. And Teilhard talks, I think, a lot about offering up suffering. And in this way, I am like Christ, offering my suffering to the evolution of myself and the world.
Mm-hmm.
This emphasis on Christ not knowing sin feels more theological than
Yes.
meaningful to me.
Okay.
But what's meaningful to me is this feeling that this sinless one suffered, so why wouldn't I suffer too? Like, suffering is just part of it.
Yes.
And the more I'm willing to embrace it, I'm fighting using that word, but it's the word that seems to come. The more I'm able to embrace it, the better
Mm-hmm.
for me.
And to be at peace with it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm not fighting the suffering, which would get in the way of actually letting the suffering change me.
Exactly. Yeah, Jung was very big on that. And Jung talked about neurotic suffering and that, this suffering over suffering instead of
Mm-hmm.
just suffer it. And as we suffer whatever is being presented,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way through. That's the way to Cana. My own promised land is on the other side of my suffering.
Right, right. And so going through that Jordan River,
Mm.
that passage of water.
Mm.
I love that in the Bible, how many times going through water,
Yeah.
you come out a new creation.
Ah,
And it's what we celebrate in baptism,
sure. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And even a baby when it's born comes out in water.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that water,
Mm. Mm.
is born into a new creation.
And that can be scary to be in water. Water over my head.
For me, it's not necessarily water over my head, but when I don't feel like I'm floating anymore or swimming,
Yeah.
to go deep, to feel that tightness in my lungs,
Uh-huh.
and then to come up for that sweet breath of air.
You're good at that, Marci. You're good at the metaphor.
I am dyslexic, and so I see the world in metaphor. That's how I think. And so I'm constantly translating.
As opposed to thinking,
Linearly.
wow, how blessed that you get to think in a metaphor way. I've
Not
had to
always.
work. I'm working so hard to get to that place, and it's such a great place.
Right, but it's really a problem when I want to speak in a sentence and not in an image.
Wow.
Right? Right. Just even when I try to name a movie that I've seen,
Mm.
I could tell you all about it. I could tell you about the picture and the color and the feeling and the movement and the relationship of the characters. Do I remember the name of the movie or the actor? No. So it makes communication challenging.
Interesting.
I think that's why I like poetry so much
Oh, yeah.
and can connect with it, is because that's how I think.
Well, and you're going to just constantly be an advocate for the symbolic language that our culture has dismissed outright.
Right. Right. That we're so literal. So, speaking of that, do you want to hear another poem?
Sure.
This one is from Mechteld of Magdeburg, also edited by Jane Hirschfield. And Mechteld would be kind of a contemporary of Hedwig.
Oh, okay.
Effortlessly, love flows from God into humans, like a bird who rivers the water without moving her wings. Thus, we move in God's world, one in body and soul, though outwardly separate in form. As the source strikes the note, humanity sings. The Holy Spirit is our harpist, and all strings which are touched in love must sound.
Wow.
Isn't that great? Go, Mechthild. So that sense of reconciliation,
Yeah.
you know, and to let go of our love of suffering or our complaint of suffering, just to effortlessly flow.
It's a beautiful image of what Paul is talking about as a new creation,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so different
Mm-hmm.
than the life that I've lived. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I move more toward that life now, and that's the new creation.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in that the new creation isn't just a one-time thing.
Mm,
You know, we are constantly
mm,
becoming new creation.
mm.
You know,
Yeah,
like I'm not where that poem's at.
right. Rivers the air. The verb is rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's just crazy.
Like a river in the air.
Yeah,
I mean, just
the word
that
is,
flow that a
yeah.
river does in the air. I think it's perfect.
Wait, we could just take that line by line.
Yes.
And it brings up the heretical question in me
Yes.
why we don't have that as liturgical reading as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
the Orthodox readings that, I mean, they're fine, but Jung talks about symbols as, and Joseph Campbell, I think, does this too, that symbols lose their liveliness
Mm-hmm.
and new symbols arise for that reason.
Mm.
And I think there's something to be said about old symbols because they have a lot of millennia of
Mm-hmm.
life
Mm-hmm.
to them. And at the same time, new symbols can strike the heart
Mm-hmm.
in a way that poem strikes me.
Mm-hmm.
And it provides just so much living water that some of
Mm-hmm.
these older readings don't. I have to work a lot harder to get the water. It's a strange paradox because I do love that the church has prayed over these readings for thousands of
Mm-hmm.
years, the church around the world. And I'm a child I came of age during Vatican II, so I had it better than a lot of people, and I grew up, my catechism was called Becoming a Person. And my mom was really angry because I didn't learn any of the basic catechism.
Yeah,
I
neither
learned,
did I.
yeah.
And I mean, I know plenty of people who did and then worked very hard to unlearn it
Exactly.
because it was heavy and destructive for them.
Yeah, and children have a certain mind that is concrete operations. And if you teach that literal stuff when a
Mm-hmm.
child is taking it in with concrete operations, I just wonder how hard it is to translate that into abstract metaphor.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want more poetry in the church liturgy. Can you do that, Marci? Can you make that
Oh,
happen?
sure. Right. I've got so much power. So, but it is also interesting. Um, you know, it's a different voice. Mechthild is female, and so much of the scriptures, in fact, all we might say, of the Bible was written by men.
Wow.
And I don't want to go too deep into a gender binary, but there's different voices because of different life experiences.
Yeah, different life experiences or different, well, what became Orthodox versus what didn't. I mean, even the Gospel of Thomas and, whoever
Mm-hmm.
that was written by, or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene,
Mm-hmm.
I dig those a lot.
All right. Speaking of Gospels,
Okay.
this is a goodie.
Okay, it's a longie.
It is long, so
Very long.
listeners, just enjoy. Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus. But the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying,
This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.
So to them Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father,
Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me.
So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off for a distant country, where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck the country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought,
How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat, but here am I, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father and shall say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.
So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him,
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.
But his father ordered his servants,
Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fatted calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.
Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back he neared the house. He heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him,
Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf because he has him back, safe and sound.
He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply,
Look, all these years I've served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fatted calf.
He said to him,
My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. Yeah, it's so psychologically true. And, spiritually, we want to unpack it too. But I think about politics when I hear this reading and how the immigrants don't deserve, like who deserves what? And I've been
Right.
spending my time working in this country, and these new people come. And so that scarcity and such a small view of who's good and who's evil. And
Well, and that the lost sons, because both sons are lost here in different ways,
yeah,
follows 2 other parables. One of the lost sheep
yeah.
and the shepherd going out, leaving the 99 to go find the one, and then the lost coin, where the woman searches her whole home for this precious coin. And now we have this. So clearly Jesus is working. Because sometimes we're a little dense, right?
Yeah.
Just like what you said, how do we react when someone who is lost has been found? Do we celebrate
Yeah.
or are we angry?
Yeah. So much scarcity in that younger son. And I see it in myself and I see it in the culture. Um, yeah. And our tiny views of who is right and who is wrong.
And the immensity, I think, of the sin of the younger son, we don't necessarily fully appreciate, but just that he asked for the inheritance from his father is saying, I wish you were dead.
Yeah,
Right?
right,
I wish
right.
you were dead. Give me what's coming to me when you die.
Because I don't want to be in relationship with you. I'm heading out of here. I'm out of
Right,
here. Yeah.
right. And you are dead to me.
Yeah.
And all that you're really good for is what you can give me.
Right.
And that going out. And the older brother doesn't stop it. He doesn't say it. But the father allows it to happen,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then when he comes back, well, and it's also a break from the community. We in our U.S. Western world don't necessarily appreciate that either. I mean, the younger brother is separating from the whole community,
Yeah.
turning his back on everyone.
Yeah.
So the fact that the father goes out and really covers his shame by hugging him and kissing him, he is saying to the whole community he is back.
Yeah.
And no one will be unkind to him, right? It's about everybody else too. And that the celebration. So if you come to the celebration, you are agreeing that this is a good thing that the younger son is back. And you're
Right.
not going to hold a grudge.
Right. And there is no room for judging.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Which is why the older son refusing to come in the house is that physical manifestation of the inward disposition of not assenting to, not agreeing to do that.
Yeah.
And again, the father goes out, right? Which is the shepherd goes out to find the lost sheep. The woman goes out on her knees to find the lost coin.
Yeah.
That outreaching of God.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings up a question, and I also have a thought about the party. But the question is, how does God keep reaching out to me?
Mm.
It may be through the sufferings that I experience.
Well, for the younger brother, he had to be suffering.
Yeah, yeah.
And for a Jewish man to be caring for pigs,
Oh,
that
yeah.
is like horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Horrible. And wanting to eat what they eat.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very low.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's willing to say, all right, I'm unworthy of all love now. That's the lesson he's learned. And yet that's not the lesson that God is teaching.
No. That's not the truth that God is.
Yeah.
That any person is no longer worthy to be loved.
Yeah. And when we refuse that party, when we refuse the gift of the love, we are like that son that's going to miss the best party that they've ever thrown with the
Right.
calf that is the best calf to kill, and it's just like the best party. And how do I sit out that party because I refuse to accept the abundance of God? The way I do that is the negative self-talk that has been a habit in my brain, and I watch it as I have a lot of blessings in my life, but I think there is a taskmaster in my brain that beats me up when I don't perform. to the expectations of this taskmaster. And I think if I say, you know what, I'm going to the party instead of sitting out here listening to you tell me how things are, it is pretty radical. And I think that as a culture, I'm listening to NPR recently, and they were talking about the workplace and the suffering of people in workplaces and the pressure to work harder and harder and harder and longer hours. And then, of course, the perfectionism of our culture. And these are all versions of not joining the party. I think there's a party that we've been given. There's enough on the planet to give everyone what they need. I was reading that recently, like everyone could have what they need. Yeah.
If people didn't hoard.
Yeah.
Right? If we just took what we needed.
Yeah. That's being part of the party. Yeah.
Yeah. As I listen to you, I think about a story. My first husband was kind of a wild card sometime. And he loved to play. And I remember so clearly it was summertime, and he and the kids were outside doing lawn stuff, and I was standing at the, kitchen doing dishes at the sink. And in my own thoughts, and all of a sudden, I was soaking wet. and I look up through the window, the kitchen window, and here is Earl outside with the garden hose spraying into the house.
Oh, my.
And getting me wet. And he was laughing. He thought it was a riot.
Yeah.
And what he wanted was for me to play.
Yeah.
For me to come out with a bucket of water and splash him too.
Yeah.
But I didn't laugh. I got angry. I was upset because I wasn't wearing the right clothes for such an activity. I was upset because I thought, great, now I have to clean this kitchen. I missed the party.
Yeah.
I totally missed the party. I think of that moment.
You missed that particular party, but
Right.
I know you had many parties with Earl, especially at the end, right?
Right. We laughed often. So my current husband and I also laugh, and I'm grateful for that laughter, how that's carried throughout my life. What a radical image of God this is.
Yes.
This isn't fire and brimstone God. This is a God who humbles God's self, who says, just take it.
Yeah.
And I love you, and I will sit and wait for you to come back.
Yeah.
And I will run out and embrace you.
Yeah.
And take away your shame.
The church, the early church, was having this experience of this God. They were having the party. Maybe not in Corinth. Corinth hadn't gotten there yet.
Well, sometimes they would party, and then sometimes they would be the older brother or the younger brother.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough, so I can fantasize and imagine the early church was egalitarian, and they shared everything together.
That's what it says.
And wow, that's the party, man. That's the party I want to live in. Yeah.
Right. Well, and they also knew suffering. I mean, they were persecuted.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's that whole Colosseum business.
Yeah.
And being thrown to the lions and so somehow or another they go together.
Our abundance does get in the way of a spiritual life. And then I track back to the talk of Lent and fasting, and I don't want to fast. But I do want to embrace my suffering. So I guess for me I guess I'm always looking for what is the what is rattling in me? Like what is presenting itself to me instead of me having to kind of create some arbitrary thing. And every day there's plenty to work on. Like, I just track these feelings of resentment or fear or disquiet. Just any moment, any place of disquiet in me is like the access point to God's work.
Right, right. Well, and that's often true. I mean, and then the question to myself is, how do I make those times of abundance a time of gratitude to access God as well?
Right.
How do I, going back to that I am, how do I let God be my I am?
Yeah. Yeah, you're a real model for me of that.
Well,
You really are.
you need better glasses, I think.
No.